I've never been able to talk about it, so I'm glad. I'm glad. I'm gonna speak in third person for a quick second, but I'm glad I can finally tell myself this. NCU! Welcome to Wano. We are only about 100 or so episodes away from actually, well, more than 100, closer to 200. Nevertheless, being caught up to where everybody else is in One Piece. This journey for me started back around June, and that's also, well, I wasn't making content obviously during that time. I didn't start making content until after Sabadi and everything. That's when my first video was about, Haki versus the Sharingan. By the way, you should check it out. And man, One Piece has been a very, very great journey. Had its highs, it had its lows. Of course, I definitely was in that camp saying, oh my gosh, 1,000 episodes, ew. Nevertheless, I've been enjoying every single moment of it. And to add on top of that, for everybody that has been here since the beginning, and of course, anybody that is newer to my channel, I thank you. Thank you for your support. I love it all. Getting closer and closer to seeing Gear 5. Also, probably started some more other anime to, of course, cover on this page, as well as, any other hot takes and debates. So please, if you do like the type of content, don't mind to like, comment, subscribe, and of course, share with your friends. But with that out of the way, let's talk about the beginning of Wano. So for starters, I got hit with this beautiful, beautiful animation when it came to One Piece. The shading was perfect and beautiful. Everybody looked like so much more buff. Everything is vibrant. It's like, and what made it even so much better is the fact that the episode before they actually entered Wano, you start slowly seeing the animation style change. Nevertheless, though, where are we? Where is everybody? And that's going to be very interesting to be explained. So for starters, Luffy. Luffy is literally landing at the beach of Wano, just laying in the sand while the Sunny is flipped over. While Nami, Chopper, Carrot, and Sanji, they're all basically, they escaped. We don't know where they're at in Wano. Nevertheless, we do know that they are in Wano. We, of course, see some of the other Straw Hats. Of course, Usopp, who's basically like a snake oil salesman. Robin, who's basically like a mistress per se. Frankie, who's just a carpenter. And of course, that man Zoro right there. We literally kick Wano off and Zoro's already in trouble. Kinemon literally told everybody of, well, the other members of the Straw Hats, like, yo, listen, y'all in Wano, the Beast Pirates are walking around. Of course, Kaido's always watching. He has his generals up around. Be discreet. And Zoro ends up in trouble. Now, to be fair, it wasn't his fault. One of the other samurais ended up basically robbing and, of course, slashing other members of Wano, and the police ended up coming and grabbing Zoro. They told Zoro, hey, in order to atone for your sins, you need to go ahead and commit, I believe how to say this is Senpoku. If I said it wrong, I apologize. Nevertheless, he realized with his conqueror's haki, and of course it's just like keen senses at all, overall, that no, the person that's telling him to do this to himself, he's the real slasher. Zoro then proceeds to body the rest of the samurai and, of course, gets put on a wanted poster. But one thing I can sit there and say that I do love that's been like a major aesthetic change, especially since the Katakuri fight, is anytime somebody uses haki, they get this like slight red like tinge to their eyes, and it's just like, man, that's beautiful. Outside of that, though, Zoro is, of course, on the run. The rest of the Straw Hats are trying to lay low, and we then cut back to Luffy. Luffy then meets this girl named Otama, who basically ends up helping him, of course, considering there's this giant dog and this giant baboon literally fighting each other. Luffy saves, of course, stops them from fighting, saves the girl from actually being kidnapped, and of course, she's like, oh, you're now my big brother. But of course, Wano wants to hit you with a gut punch in the first couple of episodes by literally saying, oh yeah, she was super cool and super attached to Ace. The same Ace that literally with a couple of Yo Daddy jokes decided to have a lifetime subscription at Krispy Kreme's. Nevertheless, though, she takes Luffy back to her place. No, not in that way. And of course, she gives him food to eat. She then, of course, tells Luffy the story about her and Ace and how, Ace and the rest of his crew landed on Wano, got captured, and all he wanted to do was basically protect her and help the people out. She also wants to be a samurai because Ace said that in order for her to join his pirate crew, then she would need to be a samurai, which of course, outside of her poor conditions, literally sits back and lets her, she's not eating. And by the way, I barely ever use this word. Actually, I don't really use this word at all. But I understand why people say Oda is based, because literally all of Wano, from the beginning of what I've seen, we've seen pollution in the water, which is a real thing that happens nowadays. We see how factories is messing everything up, how all the forests are being taken down, deforested. It's just man, this is why One Piece is so goated. We also get to find out during this time that Hawkins is now working under Kaido. And of course, it's the old saying of, if you can't beat him, join him. Nevertheless, even though she's looking okay in this picture right here, during this time, Otama wasn't okay because she drunk poison river water and now she is like in the verge of dying. So what she ends up doing, what Luffy ends up doing is saying he's going to, of course, take her to go find a healing drug or find a doctor, and hopefully things will get better. By the way, I didn't look up a picture of her sensei, more so because, again, I'm trying to avoid spoilers. Like, can't really get all the high quality pictures I got with my last couple of videos recently. Nevertheless, doing what I can. But speaking of that same sensei, he's the reason why Luffy has this sword right here. According to what he said, I cannot remember his name though. Even though he's short, he's wearing these giant stilts, and Luffy literally thought he was Usopp at first. What's crazy is that he said that sword has a demon inside of it, which is going to probably end up going to Zoro at some point. Because when I tell you that this is a terrible combination because Luffy cannot use a sword, it was just like, bruh. And if I was Zoro, oh yeah, I'd be pissed off too. You have a legendary sword, and you have the audacity to be like, well, I just want to be a samurai. I think it's cooler than you give me any of your regular swords. And by the way, instead of me actually swinging the cut like you do, let me just punch people and still just hold the sword in my hand. But also, let's talk about that because Zoro saving one of these older ladies literally had him run across paths to meet up with Luffy. And man, when I say their bromance is like so great, like he's one of if not the best wingman, of course, or just side character brothers in One Piece or in anime in general. Keeping up with those two meeting, Hawkins then pulls up, and of course he's like, all right, time to take y'all down because I see that I know who you guys are. I'm not gonna sit there and have you interfere with Kaido. Then that's gonna probably have me get killed. No, we ain't doing that. Taking you down right now. Luffy and Zoro, of course, proceed to just body the rest of the non-important characters per se, the ones that are just like, we're just henchmen, minions, things of that nature. Proceeds to body them. And then Hawkins, of course, uses a Reaper Death Seal. Not really, but just literally pulls out this thing right here. Can't tell me that's not a Shinigami. Nevertheless, Hawkins' abilities are like very interesting. Because not only does he carry this like straw sword, and of course, you see him with the cards and of course playing things by magic and chance, but nevertheless, it's one of those, he makes voodoo dolls with like a lot of his other minions. So if he ends up taking any fatal blow, he can just transfer that to his minions, which takes them out, and he's just perfectly fine. A very useful ability that I feel like is going to play a major role later on in Wano. And of course, Zoro being the Giga Chad he is, literally decides to, nah, Luffy, you make sure Otama is good. I know she's sick. I'm taking on this creature. Catches a couple hits, but nevertheless still does what he can, and of course takes it out. And just the colors and the animation of Haki on his sword is, oh my gosh, Wano is beautiful. Nevertheless, outside of all of that battle, we of course see that Kaido is pissed, even though we don't know, well, he's in Onigashima, but of course we don't know if he's heard about Luffy and them or he knows, but he's just, of course, just a menacing, can't wait to find him now. After, of course, taking out Hawkins' straw creature, Luffy, Zoro, Otama, I cannot remember this girl name. She's an older lady. I know the comments are going to remember. But they take her back to her area so that way they can give her the healing drug in order for her to actually feel better. And we also find out that Beppo and Law's crew are literally on Wano too. So man, this is going to be like the worst generation's biggest battle problem. During this whole thing, after of course Otama gets healed, literally she sits back and eats food for like the first time, I believe in like either months or so. And it being her birthday and the first time she's ever had red bean soup. She's literally like the happiest girl ever. She's like, man, this is the best birthday I've ever had. Yeah, in the comments, I know y'all gonna remember her name. I don't remember at this moment in time. Nevertheless, though, as she's telling Luffy and Zoro like everything that's wrong with Wano, Man Bat sits back and says, you know what? Pew! Shoots an arrow, and of course, Zoro with his keen sentence and of course his hockey usage blocks the arrow. He decides to go on a volley of arrow shooting spree. Nevertheless, it does not hit anybody else. But with all of that happening, it gives the other creature, I guess another Smile Beast Devil Fruit user to actually kidnap Otama. And now Luffy and Zoro are on the hunt to go retrieve her. So before this video ends, there's of course a couple of things I do am interested in knowing. Considering I made a video about, my One Piece crew, go check it out if you haven't already. Orochi is on my crew, and I need to know more about him considering they talked about him a lot. Not only that, but of course, where are the rest of the Straw Hats? And obviously the fact that Big Mom is either on the island already or she's still heading that way. But for now, we're going to wait into that. Thank you all for watching. I'm going to wrap it up here. Please make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share for more. And I'll see y'all on the next one.